I was born in Slovakia, and then when I was 4 years old, my dad found a job in Austria, so the whole family moved to Austria when I was little. So everything happened for me basically in Austria. Going to kindergarten, elementary school, high school, these things, all of that I did in Austria. And I actually started playing the violin also there. So I started immediately conservatory. I don't know. I mean, nobody in the family was really a musician, actually. So I was really the first one. My parents, though, were very appreciative of classical music and of the arts in general. So they were both amateur pianists, and my dad even used to take opera singing lessons. But I just always wanted to be different. So my sister actually also played the piano, and she did her master's in piano performance actually in Vienna. But somehow they all expected me, okay, Philip is going to be playing the piano as well. But I just really wanted to be different, so I just said I want to do violin. Luckily, there was a violin in the family because my great cousin just quit playing the violin, which was a good size for me. It was, I think, a quarter size or something like that. It was a tiny, tiny violin. So I got that. I inherited that violin, and I started right away, and I was just basically taken immediately. I was super into it, and then I started taking lessons. No, it was always one-on-one lessons. I still do believe that that's the most efficient and the greatest way to learn an instrument. You just get so much attention from one teacher, and I don't know, group lessons. I even used to teach a little bit group lessons, but I have to say I'm not a big fan of that method. I was 7 or 8, something like that. So pretty late. I mean, some people started 3 or 4. So that's kind of more on the late side, but I was just super into it, and then probably when I was 10 or 11 years old, there was no question what I wanted to do with my life. It was really clear to me the whole time. It was I wanted to be either an astronaut or a surgeon or a violinist, and it's just like when I was around 11, it was clear that's what I want to do, no question. But what kid doesn't want to be? It's either like policeman, so you can carry a gun, or 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 being an like something like a racing driver or something really adrenaline driven. I feel like that's every boy wants to do something like that. Or archaeologist if you're into dinosaurs, which every boy is. I was in Linz,
Okay.
and then I later I moved to Vienna for my studies. But yeah, most of my childhood I spent in Linz. So I went to the audition process for pre-college at the conservatory in Linz, and I was basically just self-taught. All I taught myself by ear was the Slovak national anthem and this Slovak child song about the chicken. And I played those two pieces, and I was really actually amazed that they accepted me into the school because I really had no experience and I was completely self-taught. But Professor Bohumil Semik, actually, that was his name. He took me into his studio, and things started pretty much there. I was going to elementary school at that point. So I was going to elementary school, and once a week I would go, yeah, to get my lessons. After that, I felt like in terms of my technique, I wanted to develop more. I felt like there were some things that were stopping me. So I started studying privately with a wonderful violinist in Linz. His name is Tomasz Liebig, a fantastic violinist. And and was also back then already the concertmaster of the Bruckner Orchestra in Linz. And he would be the person who opened up for me somehow. I feel like the way I should practice, the way I should approach work with the violin, and he taught me. I feel like he taught me most of the stuff that I know about playing the violin. It was about scales. It was really back to basics. I was because when I started playing the violin, everything happened pretty quickly. Like I started winning some competitions and all these kind of things. But then eventually, I felt like it. kind of stopped like my development. And that's what I was thinking. I need to get some new impulses and new ideas into my playing. So that's when I started studying with Mr. Liebig, and that really changed so much for me. It was all about back to basic scales, and it was a bit frustrating in the beginning, especially when you think of yourself that you're amazing, and then you have been winning competitions, and then it's back to basics, and it's back to scales and attitudes and all these kind of things. But it was so necessary, and I'm really happy that I did it. He really, I would say, reorganized my whole playing. He restructured my technique, everything, hand position, intonation. He was just really annoying about the rhythm, intonation, and all these things, and I'm really grateful for that, that he was. I studied with him for 3 years, or no, 2 years, I think. Actually, no, I'm just quite sure. I think it was 2 or 3 years, yeah. And then I went to study also in Linz with Professor Vinokurov, an Ukrainian violinist. And he was, again, a different approach a little bit. He still insisted on those technical things, but he gave me a little bit more freedom, I feel like. I think it was a very good balance. It was pretty much what I needed again. So that worked out. Then I went to study with this really amazing violinist, Grigory Zhislin. He was one of those big Soviet virtuosos. He won Paganini competition at age 21, and he was just an amazing player. And I had huge respect for him. And I moved to Germany for that, actually, to study with him. That was the first time I moved out from Linz and from my parents' house. So that was a big step for me. And I was studying in Würzburg with him in Germany. That's where he was teaching. He was teaching at the Royal College in London and then in Würzburg as well. Those two schools. So so I went to Germany to study with him, and it was a great experience. Just this guy is such a character. He's just such a huge personality. Just listening to him playing the lessons and just listening to him talk about music, it was just really fascinating to me. And I feel like these days, even when I play something, sometimes I still hear his voice in my ear, just telling me something. What about in terms of musicality, especially like character, tempo, all these things. Like I feel like I'm still learning from him. I'm still studying with him now. Maybe I wasn't even ready for some of the information that he was telling me back then. I feel like that I'm now discovering what he actually meant by some of the stuff that he said. Then I went back to Austria, to Vienna.
Okay.
I was missing a bigger city, and I went to study with Professor Altenberger in Vienna, and then with him I also did my undergraduate, so my bachelor degree in Vienna at the University of Performing Arts there. I was going to a festival in Canada, in Ottawa, and it was actually a festival of the great Pinke Zuckerman, and I played for him there, and he really liked my playing. So him and his assistant Petrinka Kopak, they invited me to study with them at my high school of music and finish my master's degree with them. And I was completely blown away by that. I was just thinking, this has been my biggest idol since my early teens, pretty much. So it was just unbelievable to me that I would get to study with this guy. So I did some crazy stuff like doing 2 years of studies in one, so I could finish my bachelor earlier. And then I went straight here. That was the Manhattan School of Music, and I got full scholarship, which was great because otherwise it would have been impossible to do that. I even got some support from the Upper Austrian, like the state of Upper Austria, which was great. And then I came to study here and did my master's, and it was a great experience. That's where he's still teaching actually, with a really small studio, and he teaches a lot through video conferences. So sometimes he was in Canada, and I would be in New York, and it was like a distance learning center. So I would see him on the camera like we are talking right now, basically. So this will be happening. But also he was quite a big deal, quite a great deal. He was also in New York, so that was good. So I would see him in person as well. But just listening to somebody like him, I feel like it was such a huge experience and such a huge contribution to learning how to play the violin. Just because he's sitting just a couple yards away from you, and you're just dying because the sound is just so beautiful, and he just wants to have that. You just want to get there somehow. It was really inspiring. I came to the US 2000. Let me think. 2009 probably. Yeah, I was here. I my master's took 2 years, so I studied with him for 2 years. Yes, because I graduated 2011. Yes, so I got here 2009. First of all, I decided to stay in New York, which was not something that I expected. I was thinking, okay, I'll study with Zuckerman, stay here for 2 years, and benefit from studying with him, living in New York for experience sake. My English is going to improve. I was thinking, okay, it's going to be a great experience, but then I'll probably go back to Austria. But that didn't turn out like that, as it turns out, because I'm still here, and I just saw lots of opportunity to play, and I met some great people, and I figured I want to give this a shot and try to be in New York and what it's like to be a musician in New York. So I did that, and then I got my artist visa, and now recently I was granted my artist green card, which was a huge deal for me, and I'm really happy that it worked out. So it looks like I'll be here for quite a while. So just playing, trying to get even more and more performances. I feel like that's my main goal right now. Just play as much as I can. It's going pretty well. It's going better and better. I feel like, especially through social media, I get lots of requests. Like I try to post videos all the time, so people know who I am and they can listen to me. So I've gotten some invitations for some festivals this summer in Europe as well as here, and I'll be giving my debut now coming up in early February with the Arkansas Philharmonic playing the Tchaikovsky Concerto. So that should be fun. There's things coming up, so I'm happy about it. There's some sort of momentum happening. So I hope there'll be more and more chances for me to perform. Yes, absolutely. Yeah, I don't have an agent or a manager yet. I've been exploring some options, but I haven't really found a fit. I feel like that would work for me. So I'm still exploring a couple options, and I think definitely management is definitely the next logical step for me. But I want to find something that really suits what I'm looking for. Oh, thank you so much.
Is
Yeah,
that
that was
your?
like that's my arrangement. Yeah, I
That's
did a
very good.
couple of. I was seeing it. I saw it as a challenge to take some of those pop songs and just turn them into something completely different, like a virtuosic style Paganini, whatever you want to call it, virtuoso piece. And that's what I did. I did Katy Perry's Roar. I did Frozen from Disney. I did. There were also so many covers, like violin covers of Frozen. Everybody just adds a backing track and then just plays the melody.
Right.
I thought maybe I can do something different here, so I just made it completely for solo violin, and it's. I have to say it's not an easy piece to play, but it's lots of fun, and lots of people have been actually writing me to get sheet music, so I just always email it to them so they can learn it. As long as you mention my name, when you record it or perform it, it's all good. So yeah, that has lots of interest. I also wrote a fugue based on Adele's "Rolling in the Deep." So it was like in the style of Johann Sebastian Bach. I
Right.
was trying, of course, because you cannot come close to God, obviously. I've been experimenting with that kind of stuff, but the more I think about it, the more I come to the realization that classical is what makes me actually the happiest. I have two electric violins because right after I graduated, maybe that was a phase and I was thinking, okay, now I'm free, now I can do whatever I want. And actually, at my graduation recital, as an encore, I played a Metallica medley with my pianist together. I think it's even a friend of mine actually recorded it. It's on YouTube somewhere. I did a Metallica medley just to basically show the world like now I can do whatever I want. It
Yeah.
was like this liberating moment when you're not a student anymore and you're just you can be completely yourself, which is great. But it was a nice experience, and I'm happy that I tried all these things. But I feel like, yeah, nothing makes me really much happier than Mozart. So I'll stick to that probably. I feel like my dreams and goals have really not really changed since I was, let's say, 10 years old. Like, I wanted to play concerts, I wanted to play classical stuff. I grew up listening to all the great ones, Heifetz and Zuckerman and Michael Rabin, all those big names, violin. That those are my ideals. So I mean, that's the kind of music I want to play, and that's what I've always been into. So I, even though I tried those crossover things a little bit, I touched into it a little bit, but I feel like I'm gonna stick to classical. I have all kinds of stuff, and some classical musicians might judge me for that. I don't know, but I have lots of classical, obviously. I can actually go through it right now and tell you what I see. I have everything across the board, even some electronic, rock, heavy metal, all kinds of stuff. I see here Aerosmith and Martha Argerich, which is like a weird jump. Then I have Mozart Requiem. Then there's some Dream Theater, this progressive metal band. I really like their stuff. Then there's some Baroque arias. Then there's Glenn Gould with the Goldberg variations, Bach concerti, all kinds of stuff, Beethoven variations, and these kind of things. Guns N' Roses, Jascha Heifetz, the Hilliard Ensemble, the Baroque players, Metallica, Sviatoslav Richter, Skrillex. I usually know exactly what I want to hear. So I just, actually, those, like the electronic and the rock stuff, that's usually more like my workout music. Even though I do like working out to classical as well. Like, I feel like nothing gives you such a rush of energy like the Dies Irae from the Mozart Requiem. It's just so brutal and it's just amazing. It's just like when you fuel your workout with the hellfire from the Dies Irae, it's just amazing. But I do usually know exactly what I want to listen to, and sometimes I even put something on repeat, and I just listen to that all the time because, yeah, I want to enjoy it as much as possible. I try not to do that too much because I feel like sometimes you need the silence, and sometimes if you listen to music all the time, it kind of intervenes with your thoughts. I feel like it stops you from thinking somehow because it puts you in a certain mood automatically, depending on what you're listening to, and then you might not be very genuine with your own thoughts. I feel like. Well, I will have to say, I think it's a New York thing, definitely, even more so. I met some people that I remember this. I was at a festival and in Israel actually, and there was we were always going to this dining hall to for lunch then whatever, and we were staying maybe a 3 minute walk from there, and there were some people who were from New York. They would like on this 3 minute walk. They would put their headphones in. I was thinking it's 3 minutes. That's nothing. I mean, why? Why would you do that, right? And but now I kind of understand it, to be honest, after having lived here. Well, I do love Austria. I do love Europe. I do love the sense of history that you have there. When you walk around the streets, it's all you feel the history, and I feel that's a wonderful thing. Sometimes when I even listen to music on my headphones, like Mozart operas or something, it doesn't quite connect with the surroundings. Like when I walk in New York and I listen to Mozart opera, yes, it's timeless, and yes, you can apply it to any situation in life, but in a way, it doesn't quite connect with the surroundings. In Vienna, it totally works. You know what's the funny thing? I feel like Bach works anywhere. Bach really, you can be anywhere in the world, and Bach will always work. Maybe because it's higher than anything, it's higher than anything human, and it's just an observation of whatever is around you, no matter what it is. Because it's like the whole universe kind of thing. I really believe that it's something completely outworldly, Bach's music. So it really works with any surroundings. But some Mozart, Schubert, like anything else than other than Bach, or let's say the Renaissance or Baroque period is needs a surrounding that kind of works with it. And in Vienna and Austria in general, or Europe, I really like that sense of history that is happening there. But I feel like in New York is really exciting. I feel like at least right now in my life, New York is a great place to be because I have made some great connections, I have made some great friends, and I have met lots of great people. So I feel like right now I will stay here for a while, see what happens. I definitely can see myself coming back to Europe and moving back, but right now I feel like New York is a pretty good place for me. I don't know if it's me who came up with it or somebody else. Maybe I heard it somewhere, but I really like this thought that Bach is like in a religious context. I would say that Bach is like God and Mozart is like Jesus because he's slightly more human than Bach. Bach is just somewhere completely else. Mozart is slightly more human and closer to humanity and to the emotions of humanity, let's say, and therefore more human and therefore more like half God, like a basically, my arranging was the only me tapping into the composing area, but not too much. I'm intrigued by the thought of doing it, and I might do some more of it. But I actually wish I would do more. Sure, absolutely, why not? I'm very intrigued by the idea of doing it, but somehow it hasn't happened yet. So I'm maybe after this phone call I'll start with something. Who knows? Contemporary, contemporary classical. To be honest, I don't play that much of that stuff. I don't mean to sound in a way that I'm completely ignorant about contemporary classical music, but I don't know. I always, if I have the choice, I will definitely prefer, always stick to and prefer something more on the tonal side. But that's just me. I mean, yes, it's I've played Weyburn, and that's basically the most contemporary I've been recently. There was actually a couple. There was some pieces inspired by Bach, and it was completely atonal. I played it, but I don't know. It's just when I have the choice, I will always go for something tonal. To be honest, when I'm designing my program, what to play somewhere, I will not go for the four pieces by Weyburn. I hope I'll be doing exactly the same thing that I'm doing now, but just more of it. That's the idea. I really like what I'm doing already. I just want to do more of it. That's the
Sure.
hope. I just want to play more, and that's really it, pretty much. I just want to play the music that I'm playing, and for hopefully a bigger audience, and just do what I love to do, which is play the violins. One has to just be true to oneself, I feel like, and then maybe things happen if enough people enjoy the style, sound, and all of that. And I'm hoping for the best. So there was a Paganiniana video that I did a couple, maybe like 2 months ago, and that went semi-viral. I feel like for a classical violin video, it went pretty much viral. As viral as a classical violin video can get. It got like 55,000 views in 2 days, which I
Oh
think
wow.
was, I know, like for me, it's never happened to me before. And I was just looking at my phone, what happened here? Like over 1,000 shares, and I was really happy that people were actually sharing it and enjoying it and tagging each other in the video, and that was kind of the moment when I realized, well, there is something about social media that might get me somewhere in terms of performing more. But that's a problem also, I feel like, with classical music, that it it gets stuck in this category of just you have to know something about it, you have to be educated to enjoy it, and all this kind of stuff. I feel like it really alienates the audience. Or stuff like, I don't know, when I play a performance, I sometimes even say, take your phones out, tweet about it, Instagram it, I don't care, because I hate it when there is this restriction in the classical concert space that people are not allowed to take pictures and anything. Well, then people wonder why the classical music industry is dying, let's say, because it's not a lie. I mean, when you go to any kind of concert like Coldplay, what we spoke about earlier, I mean, there's thousands of people out with their phones and they are sharing it. They are basically advertising the music for them, and that's how it should be with classical as well. I really think so. So they feel like they would have to spend some time educating themselves first, so they sound smart. I feel like it's a little bit like this, like when somebody's pretending that they know something about wines and
Yeah.
they don't dare to have a good glass of wine because they feel like they wouldn't be able to enjoy it as much as somebody else. Of course, I mean there is a certain listening experience that but you will build that over time. I mean there is stuff that's more accessible, there's stuff that's less accessible,
Right.
but completely shutting it off completely just because it's classical music, I think that's not really the idea, and
Right.
it's not really an approach that leads anywhere.